Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. I know you guys can see us way in the background, but we're all the way over here. Tonight, we're going to be cutting agates, evaluating agates, pricing agates, all things to do with agates. So, one of our headsets isn't working, but Zeke and I are going to figure it out. Um, Zeke's over there. He's excited for this cut and chat tonight. But yeah, Zeke, you said we're going to start over at the table.
The mic is on. I don't know. I'm Sherman's gonna have to play with all the mics. They're all screwy.
Yeah, everything is all messed.
I don't know what Jordan did, but like every mic is.
So remember I was telling you guys about that dinner story like 2 seconds ago? Like that's what he did all during dinner. Hey everyone.
I don't know what she's talking about.
Oh my.
Ooh, there's some really sweet agates in here. You ready to start looking at agates?
Oh, I thought we were just gonna price the can that was sitting here.
Yeah, and that's what Jordan did all night at dinner.
Yes, we're ready. We're always ready.
A little bit of reflection there. Well, the few things to go over for pricing agates is that there is no just one simple, here's how you do it. And you're going to have to come up with your own process or way of doing it, or own pricing scheme. But the things to consider is yeah, how many agates you got to cut to get a great agate. If you got to cut 500 agates, I mean, that's an extreme example, to get a really fantastic agate, then they need to be, girl, give me the sass look. Then they need to be more expensive. Like Moctezuma is a perfect example of you got to cut a lot of them to hit a really great agate. There's also price agate, like Laguna is one of the more expensive agates out there. So it's gonna have to be more expensive just for the pure fact of cost. So like one of the things that like if somebody's new and they're like, well, I want to figure out how to do it. Here's a really good Moctezuma you can show them. One of the things that you can do is like take a couple pounds of Alamejo and cut all of them, every single one, even if you know it's going to be a crap nodule, and look at the yield and go, all right, I got, let's say, three great ones. I got, 10 good ones, a whole bunch of okay ones, and some like really like that's going to be garbage. And the really great ones have to pay for the ones that are like, oh, throw that in the tumbler, to make them worth it. Like Moctezuma's, to cut an agate this good, you'd probably have to cut a few $100s worth of rough at least to get one this nice, if not more. So this has to be a pretty pricey agate to make it worth it. Because a lot of people will look at this one agate and go, well, man, why is that one agate so expensive? Well, it's got to carry the weight of everything that you had to cut to get that one agate, as well as paying for, electricity, your saw, oil. If you're selling the agates, your selling costs of either doing a show or having a live event, things like that, taxes and such. So it's a lot to it other than just, well, here's this one agate. Well, so great agate can definitely be subjective. And it's hard to determine if you have not seen a lot of them. See, that's one of the great advantages that like we have here is that we get to look at all of John's agates, and John's cut more agates than most people in their lifetime will ever will. Like when we cut agates, you guys see we're usually using like five saws, and we're doing, a few $1,000s worth of agate rough a night when we're cutting agates. Um, and so we see a lot more of them, and that helps a lot. And so if you have no basis to go off of, you can only use your personal experience of like, all right, I've cut so many Almejo, this is what I'd consider great. Like you guys will hear me say it all the time, like this is one of the best of this type of agate. That does not mean that it's the best in the world. It's just one of the best that I've seen. This most certainly there's others out there. Wow, does that have a shadow in it?
Yes, it does.
It's like, see, here's a good example of a great agate. This is a condor, and condor is not known for having shadow. It's very rare to get shadow in a condor. Condors also tend to be darker colors. So to get one that's this bright, this, overall aesthetically pleasing, and have really great shadow in it makes it significantly more valuable. So a lot of it, there's really not like that's I always hate when people just like send me a picture of like one agate and they're like, how much should this agate be? I was like, well, if you're gonna sell it, you also need to know what your cost is. An agate like this, I'd put 1,200 bucks a half on this agate. Yeah, yeah, it's also pretty flawless. I don't see any fractures in this one, or really any flaws of any kind. But the bright color in this and the shadow really helps this pair. It's crazy how good a shadow is in this Condor. But that's why I was like, try it with some like Almejo, because a lot of people, I have never once ever had anybody ask me how much they should price something and actually know what it costs. Well, if you look at the dark spots along the edges, like up here, like watch as Jordan tilts it around, you'll see the dark spots change. And that's gives you a little indication of the shadow there. This one's really fine shadow in this agate. Let's see, I'll grab another condor that is not as bright. So like this one's not bad, but in contrast to the one that I just showed you, it's also not near as nice. So like even though the weight wise there's not a significant difference, value wise, this one, and by no means am I saying this is a bad agate, but this one is not as aesthetically pleasing as that last set. The color is not as bright. The banding's not as defined. So those are all big factors. This one also has more fractures in it. So those are all big factors that are going to drop the value significantly. Like on this agate, I'd put like, let me see that agate again. Not look through the camera. It's always better to look at the agate, not through the camera when you're putting a price on it. So I usually get the price before I hand it to Jordan. On that agate, I'd put like 80 bucks, which is, that's a pretty significant price difference from the last set, even though weight wise, it's not that significant, even though it is smaller. Um, Overall, aesthetically, it's not near as nice of an agate. So that's why it's hard because you have to have something to contrast it against. But really, I would say the biggest thing you got to do if you're going to do this as selling is you have to know what your cost is. If you have no basis for what your cost is, then you're never going to know if you're making money or not. And so you don't really have an idea if you're doing good or bad. That's one thing I see a lot of people struggle with when they're trying to do a rock business is they'll just have no idea what the cost is. One of the other things to consider when you're talking about like pricing is how hard it is to replace the agate. This is a Las Mornitas Coyamito. Really great color in there. This would be an exceptionally hard agate, even for me, to go replace because you cannot get this rough anymore. It's also some of the most desirable colors in an agate. And so that makes it a lot harder to like go get another one. This little Coyamito I'd put 700 bucks on. Got nice purple. It's aesthetically pleasing. You got the little chromatography going into that orange at the tip. I do. Oh, you do? Yeah. I like the Harbor Freight ones are my personal favorite. I didn't even know we had Uline ones. Oh, that's good to know. Let's see. Oh, here's another good. Let's see. Where'd it go? Here's another good example of an agate of just being aesthetically pleasing. Like that, that's a hard part for a lot of people too, is just being aesthetically pleasing does add value. Because the more that last Koi Mito was 700. Being more aesthetically pleasing is going to mean that more people are going to want it. Way more valuable as a specimen. A slab off of that would bring nowhere near the money that the just cut agate would. And on a lot of agates, there's a very small window of cutting a perfect specimen. And so you want to cut for, if you're going to do it as a specimen, you want to cut for just the one cut. And assuming you hit it right, then you're good. You don't want to do anything else other than just polish it. This one, you also got to account for, like the other ones we showed were all flat polished, which is a lot easier to do. This one's got a big dome on it, which means that someone spent a lot more time polishing this agate than they would have like the last agate, even though it's fairly close to the same size. This one I'd put 110 on.
Is it a Queensland?
Yes, this is a Queensland. But so if you guys are thinking about doing this, like, all right, I want to do this as a business and think about like how I price things, I would say the very first most important thing to do is figure out your cost, what everything costs you, your time, everything, paper towels. You got to account for taxes, and you also have to add some cost in for just oopsies. One of the things that I would do when I did a lot of shows is I would account for theft. I knew I was going to have a decent amount of theft with having trays of cabs out on tables. So I would just plan that I was going to lose money to theft. You want to show this one? That depends on the collector, Peter. Some agates, it also depends on the time frame. At one point in time, a domed agate was considered a lot better than a flat polished agate, and that has reversed. And now more agate collectors prefer a flat polish than they do a dome polish. For me, I think it depends on the agate, and almost all of my favorite agates have a dome polish on them. So it's just personal preference, but I'd say as if you're selling, I would lean more towards doing a flat polish. If you're doing for your own collection, do not worry about what the collectors want. Someone asked about druzy. This is a good example of if this agate was banded all the way to the middle, it would be a lot more valuable than with the druzy quartz in there. However, having the druzy quartz where it's nice druzy in here like this is a lot better than just having a like empty pocket. So in this case, like I wouldn't say it hurts the agate, but if this agate was perfectly banded all the way to the center, it would be a good bit more money. This is a I don't know, let me see this one. Gotta see the skin. Some of these older ones can be a little bit trickier. That's a Quemito. Yeah, or solid quartz is also less desirable. This one also, one thing that's really going to hurt this agate is that little fracture right there. If it didn't have that fracture in it, it would make it a lot easier to sell this to like a high-end collector. This agate, I would put 1800 on. Overall, it's still a fairly decent sized agate with really great banding and colors in it. And one thing that is a personal preference that I like, if you look at the quartz in the center, you can see the yellow coming up through it. And to me, that adds to the piece because it's just in the little aesthetic things that I personally prefer, where you can see that yellow agate coming through the quartz, probably close to double that.
And across the face, that one's 4 inches by 2.
Yeah, we'll cut some alumejos. I don't actually have any polished alumejos that I could find to show you guys. But that was the other thing that I was gonna say is until you get into like really expensive high-end agates, a lot of it also just is irrelevant. Like if you're doing a local rock show, most people are not going to care if it's domed or flat polished. Yeah, a really great polish will make a big difference. Just like when we talk about doing the spheres, when people go and like I'd go buy spheres and that had a bad polish on it, and I'd repolish them and just resell them because they're so much nicer with a good polish on there. The same can be true for an agate. I've bought agates. Actually, I bought a Moctezuma once at a rock shop that was 8 inches across by 2.5 inches wide. Bright orange colors in there, phenomenal. It looked like they let the little kid in the back polish it. It looked like they took it to 80 grit and barely got any of the scratches out from there. And they had it for $50. I was like, sweet. I took it and repolished it, and now it's probably, $1,200, $1,500 agate. Botswanas can be decently valuable. One thing that can really help a Botswana agate is Botswana, just like Malawi, doesn't allow exportation of minerals unless it's finished. So you cannot get rough Botswana out anymore. And so that's going to increase the value of them because you cannot get them anymore. Like when we run out of Almejos and Gambiris in 1970s, all those agates you'll start to see will start just go up and up and up and climb more because we have the biggest supply by far of all of those agates. So when we run out, people are like, "Oh, well, you can't get those anymore," and you'll see the price climb a good bit, and so that'll make a big difference. Oh, here's another really nice river crossing with really great shadow in it. I don't know how well it's picking up for you guys, but that has got some crazy shadow in there. But what's interesting is that for a river crossing, this is exceptionally rare, and this is a pretty valuable agate. If this was a Moroccan agate, it would not be perceived near as nice as it is as a river crossing.
How much value do floaters add?
I wouldn't say they add value necessarily. It's more just an aesthetic. I mean, if you have versus like just that quartz in there versus, no floater, it's going to make a decent difference because you can have an agate with all quartz. Actually, I have a perfect example of that. Let's see, where did that go? I was digging through. We pulled out a lot of nice agates to cut tonight too. Today's been a very fun day pulling out agates. All right, here's another condor for you. This one's nice too because it's a full skin. The skin looks pretty good too. Now this agate without the floater, it would be like, oh, throw it in the tumbler. With the floater, now it's actually a pretty decent agate because it looks pretty cool. It's aesthetically pleasing. Like, I don't know, is it just me or do you guys like this agate? I think this is a pretty cool agate because I love the way the quartz looks like snowflake crystals going into the holding up that little fortification in there. But if it was just quartz, it would be near valueless. It'd be like it would go from rough to tumbling material. So in this one, having a floater in there makes a huge difference. This is a pretty cool. I got this one. Let's see. Look at I just need to still one half for a second. Yeah, man, that the way the sprays are in there are really good. I do like that featheriness in there. I'd put 250 bucks on each half of this agate. One of the other things to know, like I was saying, the full nodule, and that's the other thing is a lot of this applies to when you're like dealing with people that are like really high-end agate collectors. To a lot of the world, this stuff does not matter. Like most people only care because it makes them more valuable. But if you flip these agates over and look at the back side of them, there's no windows on this. They're complete agates. And to an agate collector, that is going to add value, that there's no windows on this, like it's a whole nodule, and it's an overall aesthetic looking piece. To the average person at a rock show that's going to spend maybe 200 bucks, 100 bucks on an agate, that's not even something that they will think about. That's so funny, Michael. Yeah, any of these agates that I'm showing you guys are for sale. I was just digging through um some of John's agates, pulling stuff out for you guys. Stuff that we haven't looked at in a while, or some of the stuff I don't know that's ever been pulled out for people to look at. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is another good example. Here's one of Jordan's favorites. Oh, Jordan does not have a mic at the moment. We are down on mics at the moment. So this is a 1970s. This agate is notorious for having fractures. So on an average agate, the fractures aren't going to hurt it horribly. But if you get in a flawless agate, that's going to greatly increase the price. So like this agate, the way it is right now, I'd put 85 bucks on. It's a nice little agate. If it was completely flawless, it could be worth easy three times that. But again, a lot of people, if you just want a pretty agate, it's not going to make a huge difference. So I wouldn't put so much emphasis on it when you're starting. But as you grow your collection, like what I think that one of the greatest things to do is if you're doing it as a business and collecting, is do replacement pieces. Like if you can't afford the greatest 1970s to have ever been cut, don't worry about it. Get one that you like, enjoy it, have fun looking at it. And when you come across one that's better that you can afford, get that one and either get rid of the other one or gift the one that you have, sell it. But upgrade your collection that way. I do that all the time with things where I'll have something in my collection that I'm like, I really like this. This is the nicest one I can afford. And when I get one that I'm like, ooh, I can afford a better one, or I found a better one, I'll sell that one and keep the better one. So that way I can keep improving my collection without spending a small fortune on one piece. So like a lot of people I think get hung up on it's not flawless. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy it.
That's why I like these.
Is that helpful for you guys? You guys have other questions?
Brett was asking about advice on what to do with blue amber. Seems hard to work with. It breaks with drilling and cutting, and it doesn't polish well.
It'll take a pretty good polish, but it's very, very soft. You can't treat it like you treat other stones. Um, Trying to convince Ed to do a cut and chat with us because Ed works a lot of amber. Like you can take a piece of amber and polish it with just like sand, like regular sandpaper. Like I remember as a kid would take like 220 and 600 grit sandpaper. And then I think Ed was saying to use Crest. Was it? I feel like I always get the brand wrong. Just white toothpaste as your final polish. But if you try to just polish it like you polish another stone, it is going to be feel like it's almost impossible. I don't think there's a place anywhere that has a list. Although I feel like if you guys hang out in here, someone's probably got a list. I wouldn't be surprised if someone has made a list of all of the common and rare traits of agates.
I was gonna do that while you went and cut.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I can do that if you want.
That would be an awesome thing to make a list of.
All right, I'll do it while you go over and cut.
Because like 1970s uh, is notorious for having fractures. Common colors is most of it's going to be blue or white agate with reds and oranges in it. Um, but like every agate is different on like as I said, like condors and river crossing is rare to get shadow. So it's fun things like that that make every agate unique. What agate should we go start cutting? There's a lot of good ones over there. Maybe I should just walk over there and look at the list. I literally had to make a list today of things to cut. All right. You guys want to pin up this camera?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure which one it is. No, I think you guys found it. All right. I got a couple Lagunas. I think I saved a couple Quamitos too, but I didn't get a chance to pull those out. Mozambique, some Moroccan agates, some Timors, some West Texas agates, some Royal Imperial nodules. I know not an agate technically. Um, some Alamejo, some condors. There might be a few river crossings in there. Some island agate, and of course some 1970s. And I'm sure there's still something that I'm forgetting, because we have so much. But put it in the chat which one you guys want to start with. And let's see. Let me grab a Sharpie so we can talk about marking windows and such. I don't know if I grabbed very many windowed agates.
Glenn says no seam agate.
Oh, I'm sure we got some seam agates laying around. I know we got some really nice condor seam. In fact, there's still a nice piece in the saw.
Yeah, and we have here first in the list, condor.
Condor lane. All right.
Yeah, and second we have West Texas and Timor.
Oh, you know what? I think there's actually an agate that's already. Those are some interesting choices. Not what I thought, but I like it. I'm grabbing an agate that someone already did this with, so I don't have to Sharpie another agate. Although this one's marked wrong. All right. So one of the things that John always recommends, let me grab a chair so I can sit here and do this. I feel like somebody took a sledgehammer to my foot. Feels like all the little bones in the top of my foot are broken, so I can barely walk around today. But we'll start with some principles for you guys to go off of that will apply to most, if not all, agates. You can see someone started to mark this agate though. However, I would not mark the whole end. I would just mark the windows like that, where you got a ring around the window. I do the same thing over here on this one. And this is a good place to just start because you got to think about how you're going to cut this and get a clean cut through it. And this will really help with pricing agates too. If you cut through a window, it can greatly diminish the value of an agate. And when we talk about window, we're just talking about where it's got a little broken face like these on here. One of the other things that we try to greatly avoid are what we call valleys. And this right here would be a valley. You can see where it kind of dips down in the agate because this is where the agate was shrinking. and almost always you'll get a fracture right there. So like if you took this agate and cut it across through here, you'd be almost guaranteed to get a little fracture right there.
Can you hear me?
So so marking the windows is a good
Get you.
place to start because a lot of people when they go to clamp it in the saw won't be paying attention like on especially we got a lot of agate a little windows like this where they won't be paying enough attention and they'll get it in there and be like, "Oh, I didn't see this window down here," and I ended up cutting through it. So cleaning your agate off and marking all the windows is a really good place to start so that you don't cut through a window. And then John will actually mark on the agate where he's going to cut it. If we're doing a lot of them now, like on this agate, you can see there's several fractures running up this direction. So something there to worry about as well. So you got 3 windows. You got a valley running through right here, and potentially some fractures running this way. Now, this agate is pretty limited on where you can cut this with those restrictions. So if I was going to cut this one, I would either cut all the way through up through the middle there. I'd cut the end off right here, or I'd cut through this direction right here. You can't really pancake this nodule because you have too many windows. So that kind of eliminates cutting it this direction. This is probably going to be your cleanest cut right here. But if you look at this agate, that window right there is significantly less interesting than that window right there. So for me, actually, there's one. No, it's too tight. For me, I think the best cut on this agate would be to come right between these 2 pieces right here, and we'll just mark a little line up through here. You got to make sure you're following the same line all the way around. Often people, yeah, see, look, if I would have marked it like that, you could see how easy it is to get off track and stick it in the saw and cut through a window. So we got to come back, get us back on track here. There we go. That's much better. That's another little risky area there where you get that pocket in. But still, I think that's the best cut for this agate. This is kind of a tricky one with how much is going on with this agate. But this deviation right here is a perfect example of why marking the agates is helpful. Because if you stuck it in the saw, like, oh, that looks like it's lined up right there, you cut right through one of the windows. So it's very helpful to mark it. And like you guys see me cut a lot of agates. I rarely ever mark the agates. So this is just a good place to get started. Definitely not necessary to do on every agate. But if you want to improve your cutting skills, this is where John would have you start. All right, what would we say those the most voted on agate to
So
start with?
yeah, we got the pool ready right now. Kimi, you can show it. Okay, guys, start voting now.
All right, and then whatever one is the most popular, we'll stick in the saw.
Yep.
Ahmed, how does this sound now?
Oh,
That
it's
sounds good.
so good. Yeah,
Oh
sounds so
my
good.
goodness. Okay. It's a TV over there that's the issue. And then I'll have to connect to my desk over here, like the sitting desk from now on. Sounds better
Uh,
than it did earlier.
yeah, it sounds way better. 29 votes out of 115.
I know all these good agates here. That's why you guys got
Yeah.
to vote because I'm like, oh, I don't know that I could choose. We could be here all night cutting agates. Well, actually, the better news for you guys is that we also pulled a lot of good agate out for you guys to do tote with later.
I'm making that list for you guys. You guys are funny.
Okay,
So when
five
you're
seconds.
cutting, when you guys are so it depends on what you're cutting for, Glenn. So when people are cutting for agate specimens, and then what one? Island agates?
Yes. Iron
Oh, all
agates
right.
first, and we have second Mozambique agates.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Let's start with around the island.
okay. Thanks, Deep.
Thank you, boys. So when you're cutting, for agate specimens, when you cut through a window, it devalues the agate, Glenn. That's something that goes into account when you're doing that.
It can make a huge difference. Like for really high-end agates, you sometimes you can be talking about thousands of dollars worth of difference. So you grab a few out of the bin here. Get us started. I love cutting island agates.
Team, have you raised that portal error to Sherman and ripped him?
Bye. Yes, Jordan.
Okay,
Working
thank
on it.
you. Thanks.
Yeah, if you're just gonna slab an agate up for cabs, then it doesn't make any difference. Uh, all right, now island agates are a bit unique because they have such funky skin on there. Let's see, I need one that's more funky. Like here, right here is a good example. This is not considered a window. This is just weathered skin on the agate of where it's been weathered down. So like that would not be considered a window, which throws a lot of people off on the island agate because it's not a fresh break. It's just weathered skin. Now, here on this island agate, that is a window where it's got a fresh break here. So you would not want to cut through that. However, on this agate, if you cut through, either of those faces, it would not hurt the value of the agate. So there, that is that helpful for you guys to see the just skin versus a window on that? Because I feel like that's one area that throws a lot of people off.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Hmm.
Where I get tripped up and I still totally can't understand is when it comes to peeler skins on the island agates, those are technically still part of the skin that we've gone over, right? Not a window.
Yep. Yep.
So does that take into account, um, so say you have an agate that's like an island agate that's half a peeler and half is like the regular kind of skin that you see. It wouldn't make any difference to kind of cut through either or once you use your best judgment for the best cut.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hopefully that
Now
helps a
on
couple of you out.
on this agate, even though we could cut it through this direction, I don't think that's the best way to cut this agate. Because one of the other things to consider is, well, maybe we do need to cut it that direction. Look at that fracture. I didn't see that when I was deciding. But ideally on this agate, this is such a symmetrical face right here. So in a perfect world, I would clamp this agate here and I'd cut it right through here to get this nice symmetrical face. And that would be very, very desirable. But as I'm rolling around here, this is why John always says study the agates. When he's saying study the agates, this is what he's talking about. We're sitting here looking at them. That right there is definitely going to be a fracture. So we do not want to cut through that. Let's see. Right there. We would be better off to cut over here Or if you didn't want to cut through that, you could do an angle cut right there. Although this one, I think cutting right down the middle right there will be the best place to do. Well, on this one, it's pretty easy to tell because you look and see how deep that is in comparison to like little lines over here. Like this one you can see is going down the whole length of the face, and it's a lot deeper looking. So that one I'd be pretty confident. That was a good way to cut it. This one, you got a little window right there. This has kind of got some more of that funky skin on it. Let's see. I like this thick part right down the middle. That's one of the other things to consider too is how big of a face versus how symmetrical it's going to be. This one I would cut right down this line right here. And we'll go put all these in the saw when we're done looking at. There was one here. This one right here. This one you can see waterline sitting right in there, but it has little banding above it, and this is very common in the Mozambiques as well, is where you get waterline with fortification over it. So this agate, if we cut far away from those water lines, parallel to them, we'll more than likely get a good full fortification. However, if you want the water line, then you'd want to cut it through this direction right here to get those water line. I'm not the biggest fan of waterline. Like, I think it's cool. But to me, I'd rather have the banding in there. So I would prefer this cut here. But that's also going to be a much smaller face than if you cut through this direction right here. And then, of course, you got to inspect for fractures.
Is cutting, this is an island agate, is cutting through a waterline window okay?
As a general rule, you don't want to cut through any window. Like this is not really a window right here. You got a little chip right there. So you could cut through that if you wanted to, but you have much smoother skin over here. So I would make this cut right here rather than make this cut. And then of course you don't want to cut through the end where you're seeing that little fortification sticking out because that is a fresh window. This is another perfect example of cutting for a aesthetically pleasing agate. Although, first thing I see right off the bat is I don't like that. So I would not cut through that line right there. A lot of people just run over and throw this in the saw, or if you're cutting on a trim saw, they just cut it this way, and you're almost guaranteed to have a fracture right there on that line. But let's pretend for a second that that fracture doesn't exist. If you cut this direction, you're going to get an egg that you can see it's kind of thin here and longer here. If you cut it this direction, you're going to get more of an egg shape that's going to have more tighter banding. If you turn it and cut it through this direction, you'll get also that egg shape, but it's going to be more flatter bands because of the way the agate's compressed in that direction. And if you cut it this direction, you'll get a more round face or oval face with really tight banding in comparison. So on this agate, of the three cuts, like pretending that fracture is not there, of the three cuts, I think this cut would be my preferred cut because that gives you a big face and still tight banding. My next favorite cut would be this cut here because I like the symmetrical tight banding. And then on this particular agate, for the island agate, this would be my least favorite cut, doing the big cut, because island agates, that tight banding with the shadow in there is one of the things that makes them so nice. So I would not want to cut it that direction. However, if this was a Moctezuma, I would be like hands down, cut it, pancake it through this direction because that'll be the most aesthetically pleasing for a Moctezuma. So anything with tighter, more shadow banding, you're gonna want to cut for the tighter bands. Does that make sense? On this one right here, though, we can see that it's got that fraction there. So our best bet is going to take an angle cut, kind of matching that fracture, but just moved over maybe a little bit more than a quarter of an inch. Let's see. Let's pick one or two more and then go ahead over to the saws. This is another one where you can actually, let's see. Where's the quartzy one? I want to talk about the quartz. Oh, here, perfect. All right. How attractive does that agate look? Doesn't that look like a real winner? Nice quartzy face. You can see it's almost all quartz on this face, and it's not like good druzy quartz. It's like blit quartz. So of course, if you cut it through this direction, that's not going to be very attractive. You're going to get almost all quartz. But with the island agates, and I think this applies to the Mozambiques as well, the quartz teardrops inside the agate. And so if you cut on the opposite end of the quartz, you almost lose all of the quartz in there. And this one has actually got a little window on the other end so that we can see it's perfectly banded with no quartz on the other end. So if you cut it through this direction, which I mean most people wouldn't want to do anyway because of how the size thickness, but if you cut it through this direction, you get almost all quartz. And if you cut it through over here, you're going to get all banding. So that's something to pay attention to. Some of the best island agates I've ever cut had a ugly face like this on them, and when you cut them, were amazing agates. You just got to cut on the other end. So on this one, we'll come and cut through the thick part of the agate, like right through there. Take like a half-inch slab off. But that should actually be a really good agate. But that's something important to notice because a lot of people would pass on that agate if that's the only face that they could see. Actually, 99% of people would pass on that agate if that was the only face that they could see. All right, let's go through these first few in the saw here. And then we'll keep looking at them as we go down the saws. And then we have something fun to ooh and ah at.
How
What do
many
you
island
mean,
ag
rainbow?
like are you talking about like the crazy ones that Zeke cuts with all the different kinds of colors, James?
I was like, because rainbow, if
Um,
you mean like iris, that's pretty rare. I don't know that I've ever seen an iris island agate, but I think that you can get one. I've looked at a few of the skins and been like, it might do it. Island agates overall, though, have a pretty good yield of where you don't have to cut humongous amounts of them to get a good agate. I left some of these thunder egg little geode things in the sauce. Ooh, there's a nice rockin' agate that Tate was cutting.
do you get better yield with one size versus the others?
Really great shadow in that one. Um, with any agate, even the Almejos, the larger they are, the yield goes down. It is much harder to get a big, perfect, amazing agate of any agate. So the bigger they get, the harder it becomes to get a perfect one. Um, like even the Almejos, when you get to the extra large size, the yield goes down a decent amount. But like the small or the medium is going to have really good yield on the island agate. The large, they still have pretty good yield, but not near as much as like the medium will. Brazilian agates, it depends on the skin color. The white ones, the white skins are probably your best yield. The black skins are my favorites, and pretty close to the white, whereas the red skin ones are going to be a much lower yield, for great agates. Almost all agates, you can tell a lot about the agate from the skin. Good grief, it's time to clean these saws out. Let's see, that one will cut up through there. Get the long face out of this one. Again, on this one, if it was a Moctezuma, I would be pushing for the to pancake this one. Well, it's important to check them. There we go. That's much better.
Oh, sorry, Zeke, were you saying my name?
No, I was just talking to myself as I load the agate in.
Oh, hi, Jeffrey. Zeke, can you go over for me why the location of the island agates is a secret?
The biggest reason, and the Chinese agates are a perfect example of this. The biggest reason is if everybody knew where the island agates came from, people would go in and they would pay stupid amounts of money to high grade it. And it would make the island agate so expensive that it just wouldn't be worth it. Um, like a lot of agates have become. Like like these island agates could easily become $150 a pound agates, which is why John doesn't disclose the location, because by controlling where they come from, or like, who knows, he can keep them very affordable for us to play with. Like, does anybody really want to pay $150 a pound for island agate?
And I'm putting together a list for you guys right now, of things you need to know about just about every kind of agate that we carry.
That is
And
so
then
awesome, Jordan.
so once it won't be done tonight, but I'll get it as close to done as I can, and then Zikri can go over it with me and then polish it up, polish the document up and then send it to you guys. Because I know that's a question I get asked a lot, so I figured the perfect time to do it would be right now while Zeke's talking about it.
That is a great thing.
You guys are welcome. I still think John should write a book on it in all his free time.
And all of John's free time, right? I think
I
what
want oop, go ahead, Zeke.
I think the next agate contest we're gonna do was, we talked about was doing a like Mexican agates to include all of the Mexican agates. I can't remember if we scheduled that or not yet, though.
Another one, Jeffrey? Oh, my Lanza. Oh, I have a coffee.
Coffee.
Oh, do you want to explain to everybody what a Southie accent means to you, Zeke?
You just say it anytime you want to drive Jordan crazy. You just throw Southie in there, and she'll go. "Arr."
He called someone from New. He told me that someone from New Jersey has a Southie accent. I'm like, what?
Yeah, because they're further south.
No, he's crazy. He's crazy.
That's that one with that fracture right there. So we'll cut it this direction. It's just a way to drive Jordan crazy.
Per usual from you.
Oh, Lizelle. Are you on?
I haven't seen Lizelle yet.
She's
That's
not
odd.
here.
She will be here in a
Hmm.
moment.
Okay.
Well,
Interesting.
Lizelle and I were looking before the live event, and we have some stainless steel HT 10s, and I can't remember if she said 12s or 14s.
12s.
12s in stock that came in recently. And I was like, ooh, somebody might be interested in that because we did a early, extra long, crikey, good grief. Why is that one not showing? Um, discount for Valentine's for you guys. So right now, I've got some rock chips on the sides of the saw there. So anything on the website, sorry, I got distracted there for a second. Anything on the website right now, parts, machines, accessories, gadgets, and gizmos is all 10% off for you guys, but it's early access, so you won't get it on the website. If there's something you want, you just message one of the team members here or put it in the chat. And then, team, you want to get prices on those units that I mentioned that we have in stock? But I think we have plenty of regular HT14s as well. And I think 12s also, but I'm not certain.
I'm sorry, what was your question, Zeke?
Prices?
On the HT stainless ones?
Yeah. Oh, as John say, take a layer off. I got a selfie look from
Um,
Jordan.
the HT 12SS is 2097. HT
Isn't that a fun little agate? This is an Alamejo. The this is a really good agate for just about anybody to start with because they're extremely affordable and they're a lot of fun to cut. They have a really high yield. And when we talk about yield for agate, what we're talking about is how many of them do you have to cut to get a nice one? And with island agates, if you take, or I'm sorry, with Alamejos, if you take, let's say, 100 of them out of, just pull them out of the bin, wash them, clean them up. I would say 10 of them on average, this is just average, this is not exact, on average are going to be pretty nice. Then you'll get another 15 to 20 that are like, oh, those are pretty. And then you'll have some that are like, oh, it's not bad. And then the rest will be like throwing the tumbler, which is really good. If you take 100 Moctezuma, if you get 5 that are great, you're going to be like, wow, that was fun. And these ones are some of the most affordable agates. So this is a really good one for people to start with. That one right there, you can see a fracture running down the length of it. So I would come and cut on the, well, let's see, you're a little limited to the start of the window right there. I would still come and cut on the other side of that over here. I think we had an Alamejo deal too, don't we, Dean? But I thought we should cut some of these because this is a good one to practice with, checking your windows. You wouldn't want to cut down through the valley there. This one, I would clamp right there and come and cut the end off right here through the thick part. We'll cut around to these when those island agates are done because they go fast. This one, you got a little window right there, so I'd come probably right between that window and that window right there. Clamp it there, cut down it. And yeah, anybody that's like, you got to scrub these first. It's because these are pretty dirty. These ones we washed, but these are pretty dirty. So a lot of times you won't even be able to see that there's a window until you wash them. This one is just a perfect little whole nodule. I would just cut this one to come get through the biggest face right there.
Let me see.
I like the skin color on theirs. There's another one I'd come and cut about that direction right there through. But these ones they cut real fast, so it's a lot of fun. Oh, that's going to be a nice one. We don't cut any agates on the trim saw, really. I'll show you why. Not that you can't do it, but we don't. If you are going to cut them on a trim saw, you want to have a really great blade and a lot of patience. Let's see. You don't know where that agate went, do you, Jordan? That Swaco?
Try possibly underneath the
Oh,
cab machine.
found it. I was looking right at it. I'm not discouraging. I'm just saying it's possible, but I wouldn't do it. So this is a perfect example of why cutting agates on a trim saw can be dangerous. All these little lines you see in here are from, you can actually see the curvature of the blade in some of them, are from someone taking this agate and cutting it like this through a trim saw. And those are little heat fractures because they were cutting way too fast. And so the only way to get rid of that is to grind a decent amount off or to take another cut off to get rid of all of that. A lot of people, I see this all the time on Facebook. People post up, be like, man, I can't get the scratches out of my agate. It's because they're not scratches, they're fractures. And even in the most popular Facebook cutting videos, almost every agate I see, they'll open it up on camera, and even wet, you can see the micro fractures in the agate, which is very avoidable. So, like, you'll see us, we always cut our agates on the little slab saws. In fact, the little 12-inch saw is the saw that John designed for himself to cut agates. But if you are going to cut on a trim saw, you want to have a very free cutting blade. When I say free cutting, I mean how much force it takes to push the rock through the blade. So like those new continuous rim blades we have, those are really good for that. If you're going to do a lot of agate cutting, I would recommend using oil in your trim saw over water. But if you are going to use water, one of the other things you can do is add a drop of Dawn dish soap to the water, and that will really help with the lubricity. Yeah, just a drop, not like a splash, not a couple drops, one drop. Yes, what we use in all of our machines that we use oil in is a low viscosity mineral oil. I've heard that borax is toxic, but I do not know. I don't know. I'm sure someone can confirm that. But Dawn dish soap works really great. So don't be totally discouraged that you have to not cut agates because you only have a trim saw. Just have a lot of patience if you're going to do it. But actually, maybe we'll go load up the saws, and then I'll cut one on the trim saw with you guys. I almost never cut them on the trim saw. That looks like another pretty good one. Whole nodule, little color peeking out right there. And it sounds like those saws are all done. Yeah, if you're
So
gonna use don't use soap if you're using mineral oil. But if you're using water in your trim saw, one drop of Dawn dish soap will make a good difference. And based on previous comments, I quite literally mean one drop. I can't remember who it was, but we had somebody put a bunch in their saw, and it was bubbling all over the place with soap bubbles. Ooh, I like it. We did good on our first cut here. I'll do the reveal for you guys. That one we could actually take another slice off, and you can see there's one more layer of banding to get into. Yeah, that's really pink. It is a lighter shade though, so I don't think it's showing up super well on camera, but that's pretty good agate. And it's got lots of shadow in it. When we talk about shadow, it's the parallax where you see the light moving around between the bands. We'll go through this in the oil absorbent. I would not dome that. I would just do a flat polish on that particular agate. All right, and then as we go, I'm gonna load up these little Almejos where I cut right between those two windows right there. As a general rule for the agate collectors, a flat polish is more desirable. It is, but that really only applies if you're selling it. You know, if you're doing it for your own collection, don't worry about it. Just enjoy it. That's one thing I think a lot of people get too hung up on. If you're not in it as a business, you're just doing it for fun, don't worry about it. Just do what you like. You know, I mean I cringed a little bit too, but like I saw one lady post up on Facebook where she took a bunch of really nice condor agate and tumbled it. Absolutely gorgeous batch. But she was getting roasted for tumbling this batch of agates. And I kind of felt too like, oh, I wish I could have cut that one instead of it being tumbled. But they're her agates, and she was having a great time. So like I wouldn't have said anything about it, but I was surprised at how many people were so rude in the comments because, you know, do what you enjoy.
So, Jerry, do you want a saw with legs?
That's another fun one. There's got the water line in that one. I mean, I might judge you a little bit for doing it, but you should do what you like. No, I'm just kidding. But you really should just do what you enjoy. If you're doing it for a business, definitely cut for what's going to be the most valuable. If you're doing it for yourself, just have fun. It's funny. People will do the same thing with the spheres. Every time I post up a really high-end sphere, people will be like, "Oh my God, you ruined that piece. You wasted so much because you turned it into a ball." And I think the same thing every time somebody slabs up a really great sphere rock. I go, "Oh my gosh, they ruined it. It could have been a really great ball." That one, we got a little window right there. I think our best bet is to cut right through this end.
I was gonna say, Jerry, and Everclean is also like how willing you are to really stay on top of the maintenance of your saw is something that is gonna play a role in deciding and what you're gonna do. Like I put in the comment that I responded to up above. If you are leaning between the 12 and the 16, like those are two totally different saws, you know what I mean? If you go towards the 16 right off the bat, you're gonna have access to be able to cut whatever kind of sizes you want. And Zeke, the continuous rim goes up to a 14-inch, right?
Yes.
So you can add more oil to be able to cut with that continuous rim for your agates in your 16-inch saw. And then when you need to put your other blade back on, you just drain that little bit of oil out and then put your 16-inch blade back on there. That would be a way to set it up for agates for that one. Go ahead, Zeke.
And having that was a really pretty agate. I do looking at it in hindsight, I definitely wish I would have cut it the other way. Um, for the smaller face. Um, One thing that'll also help, like if you're using a 16 with these little agates, is a rock gripper. But
Yeah.
you can cut, like you put a 14-inch blade on the 16 and grab a rock gripper. There's no problem to cut little almejos like this. I like it, Ed.
Does that help out a little bit, Jerry? Question on windows. That's awesome. I have two windows on an almost round agate that I can't cut between them, the windows. Which one do you choose? Sent you an email with pictures. Did you send an email to Zeke Allen? Alrighty. Um, Zeke can take a look at that.
As a general rule, I would rather, I mean, it depends on the agate, but I think as a general rule, I'd rather have a fracture over a window if that's where we were going with that question. This is an interesting one because it's very quartzy with a little floater in it. I wonder if we cut the end off down right here, if we will lose the quartz. I think we should
Zeke,
try to recut this one and see.
All right, thanks, Zeke.
Oh, of course. All right. What was the next most requested agate?
Mozambique.
Ooh, Mozambique. I love the Mozambiques. That's one I actually need to go grab a flashlight for because there's something fun I want to show you guys. But there's a bin of Mozambiques. that we can play with.
How long are you doing that slab saw deal, Zeke?
That's just a tonight deal. Something special with all the agates. That is a pretty sweet deal. All right, on the Mozambiques. They are pretty translucent, a lot of them. So, well, it would help if these were washed. But, oh, here's a perfect spot right here. I mean, this one you can see on the skin, but you can see that the light kind of stops where the fracture is. So, some of these, they call it candling them, but you can put a light to them to help you find fractures on the translucent agates. Like, look how, I mean, of course, this one you can see on the skin, but imagine there's one that you can't see, how well that shows up where the light stops the fracture. So that can help you as you're looking at the agates. See, like, you can kind of see the one right there running through that as you're looking at the piece, but it shows up really well in that fracture right there. So something to consider. This one, because of that fracture, I would break the typical valley rule and I would cut this one through here, which is what we're going to do on that one. This is another good example. See, a lot of people look at this agate and go, oh, I don't know if that really looks that great. The edges look really nice, but the center doesn't look that spectacular. And it's because you're looking at one of the flat water lines right here. If you cut close to this face, you'll get just like a flat color in the middle. It won't be that exciting. But if we cut further away, um, uh, we'll get more of the fortification in there. So this one we'll take and clamp like that and cut through there. Can someone read me that blade question for the 14? I saw something about an HT14 green
Yeah, I'm
line
coming.
blade,
Hold
but
on. Sorry. Um, yeah, I'm going through all my emails now for all you guys. Hold on, I'm going back up. Yeah, the new
this
blades are way quieter. Like the continuous rim is and the notched rim. Like I couldn't even, especially when Zeke put it on the 24, I was like, oh my goodness, the noise.
that's a good idea to add just general agate tips to this list. Now
That's
this
what
is
I'm doing.
another. Oh, sweet. Go Jordan. Yeah, the notch rim is definitely the quietest ones. You can see these little lines all going in one direction on the skin right there. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Those are little tubes running through the agate. So there's two ways to think about cutting these. If we take and cut this way, you'll get tubes running down the face of the stone. If we take and cut this way, you will get little dots in there of the tubes. Or actually, there's one other way you can do it. You can tilt it and cut it at a 45-degree angle and get like a little dot with a little stringer on there, which is what we're going to do on this one because you got starting with a valley right there and you got a window right there where you can actually see a tube. So we're going to take this one and cut it at a steep angle right here so you get the best of both worlds. I love the Mozambique agates. I think they're such an underrated agate. This one right here too. Nice round nodule. I'm seeing little lines periodically going across the skin there. So we'll just cut this direction to try to best avoid little fractures in there. There's one same thing you'll see. Like I used to do this all the time as a kid. Cut through like this, but you're almost guaranteed to get a fracture on both spots there. So you're much better off to cut right through the middle here and get a nice symmetrical agate. And it looks like it'll be really clean. All right, well, that's 5 right there. And the saws are done with the Alamejos. Let me shut these off.
What blade comes on the 14 inch? It is a green line on the 14 inch, the HT 14.
Yeah.
And then how much for a continuous rim 14? I think I said 175.
Yeah, the green line blade is going to give you the least smooth cut compared to all the blades that we have. The newest continuous rim or the segmented black blade, depending on the size of the saw, will be your smoothest one. Well, that's got some pop and color in it.
Yeah, those are the stainless steel saws. I don't believe they're listed on the website. Yeah, I think the only people that really know about the stainless steel saws are here in the live events.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi,
Isn't
Jason.
that some fun color in there? Hey, team, did you guys have an Almejo deal? Like, who doesn't want to cut some of those?
Yes, we do. We're gonna share it in the chat.
Oh, awesome. All right. This one, there's that fracture right there. So this one we're gonna break our traditional not cutting through the valley rule where my thumb is. And that's how I like to hold the agates, is I like to put my fingers on the fracture of the window and move it around so I can look and make sure I'm gonna get a clean cut. Normally I wouldn't cut through the valley like that, but it's better to cut through the valley and maybe get a fracture versus cutting through a big fracture than knowing you're gonna get a fracture. That just seems like sacrilege, Keith. Oh, you know what we should do, Jordan?
What, Zachary?
We should go through some of the cut halves or some of the polished agates that could have been cut better and pull some out to be like, all right, now that you can see this is cut, clearly the other direction would have been better. Or this one was just, flat out cut wrong. So I don't know I can bring myself to just cut them for the sake of it. Maybe we can find some duds and cut them that way. Depends on how nice the agate is if I can bring myself to do it. See, this is another one that I think needs a recut. We cut it off on the end there, and you can see nice little agate bands in there. But looking at this face over here, we might get a better agate if we recut it over here. Although that's still a pretty cute little agate. What I'm thinking is that I'll wash this one and we'll go cut it on the trim saw because somebody wanted to see one cut on the trim saw.
Can you tell us sell price while you're revealing the cutting agate?
Uh,
Just
one like that probably like I probably wouldn't even polish it by hand. I'd probably throw it in the tumbler. Like it's a cute little agate, but it's not one that like if you polish the face on this agate, it maybe get 10 or $15. If it was me, I would just toss that one in the tumbler.
Zeke, are you not
Uh,
worried about those saws binding when you're not at it?
I mean, not when I'm clamping them. If I'm not the one clamping them, then I would worry about it. But I've never really had a problem. I wouldn't recommend just walking away, like don't go to lunch and leave them running, but I rarely ever have a problem when I'm cutting, so I don't usually worry about it too much. But I mean, usually, like if you guys watch when I'm doing it, I'm usually making sure the agates are really tight in there. I'm checking to make sure the blade's starting off good. If I'm not paying attention, I'm gonna make sets. So you won't really be able to hear an accurate noise level. Although this cutting this little agate on this saw is not very loud. I'd still wear a hearing protection though.
James is asking. He has a question. Tumblr question, if I may. Thinking of getting two of the dual 3 pounds tumblers. Is that enough so I can dedicate a drum to specific grit and polish? Also, is the grit kit for the small tumblers good for the 3 pounds tumblers?
I'm sorry, I got lost in the first part of the question. What was the first part?
So he was thinking to get two of the dual 3 pounds tumblers. Is that enough so he can dedicate a drum to specific grit or and polish?
Yeah, a lot of people run 5 stages. A lot of people also only run 4 stages. So you could definitely do that, but also what Michael said of you can buy extra barrels too. So having 2 machines will be plenty to be able to rotate stuff through. But it depends on what you're tumbling and how many stages you run. Because I feel like tumbling was simpler when I was a kid. It seems like it's gotten a lot more complicated. There's like a recipe for everything, and people are getting really great results. But we have some people that, yeah, very, very strict on their tumbling. More precise. That's a better way to put it, Ivan. All right, let's see if we ended up with a better face there. Oh, no. I mean, still a nice little fortification. But one thing that we could do with this agate is make a nice cabochon with it. I mean, of course, you could tumble it, but you could also take and let's see, why don't we cut it off and make a cab? We'll just cut off the banded portion.
Glenn is asking, you don't check your trim saw blades before cutting?
What do you mean, check them?
He said he almost lost a finger due to a burning out. 5 stitches.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but that doesn't sound like fun.
Team, get Colleen a lid kit, please.
You got it, Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm not going to finish this cab tonight, but I am going to preform it, so you guys can see how a uh, little piece of scrap can be turned into something nice.
Yeah, they got it, Michael. Ahmed said it.
When I had my shop, I mean, of course, I wasn't doing this as a hobby. I mean, I did do it also as a hobby, but I was doing this professionally to make money. I really hated to waste anything that I spent money on. So, I had a little agate that like this that didn't turn out. I was like, how am I gonna, still cab it up or make something nice, even just tumbling it? One of the other things that I know this is a little more personal is I feel like Mother Earth created so much beautiful stuff that it's really a shame to waste any of it. So if it's not, if like you can make something beautiful out of it or there's a way to not waste it, I much prefer that because it is a limited resource. So anything that I can not waste, I really try not to.
Hey, Brandon's here. Brandon, Zeke and I loved the selfie of the floor of the floor scrubber this afternoon.
So like a little cab like that honestly would sell for more than the Almejo anyway. A little cab like this, if it was finished, I would get probably 25, $30 for a cab like that. Where you got nice little bands and pooling of color in there, and someone would love that for a little pendant. It's a little, and it's not bad for a ring. A lot of people would wear that in a ring, but that would make such a cute little pendant. You got those little dendrites coming through there. I polish the sides and the top. Sometimes I polish the back. Sometimes I don't. I often don't have fingernails. They're almost always ground off. But there's another little use for agates. And the other thing you can do too, if you are not a cabber, you're like, I'm never going to sit and make cabs. Find somebody that wants to and sell your rough to them or give it to them, you know. If it's just junk for you, let some teenager make money making cabs. I used to have people that like I was enjoying watching them get started and make progress. So I would give them stuff to help them grow. Or if there's stuff that's like this has value to it that I'm not going to use, sometimes I'd sell it. I know one gentleman who does a lot with the agates that what was after the Mozambique? I forgot. I lost track here. But I know one gentleman, he has no desire to make cabs, but he cuts lots of really high-end agates. So he got his son to learn. He came here. I taught his son how to make cabs, and his son takes all the broken, unworthy of specimen pieces agates, makes killer cabs out of them, and that's his whole business. And it's great because his dad's like, I have zero desire to cut a cab. What agate next team?
Timur agate.
Oh, Team Wars. Okay. Lucky for us, I grabbed a few of those. There's one really funky one here. I don't know that we can get that in a 12th though. Just gonna stick a Timor on each saw and we'll put those in as we go down the line. See how we did here. Oh, not bad. Not a super agate, but not bad. That you can see there's a little fracture right there, but it also has a kind of cute little plume coming into it. I would like this agate a lot more if it didn't have the quartz in the center. Although in this case, I kind of like that feathery quartz where it looks like ice crystals. It
How
has
much would you put
gotten
on that?
very hard to get the Royal Aztec, but it is great stuff. I love that material. This one, if you were gonna polish that agate, you'd probably get somewhere between 35 and $50 a half for one like that. This was another one that actually you'd probably get more if you cut it up for cabs. Like that, Sarah. Is that something you can check?
Me? Checking what?
Wet belt sanders.
Wet belt Sanders. Let me see.
All right, and then I grabbed a Timor.
Zachary, what about that one upstairs? Are you gonna go down that?
No, I gotta retrofit that one.
Um,
Shoot the video on it.
yeah, okay.
I don't know if that one's sold or not, but I am gonna convert it. This one, I don't like that line right there, so I think we'll come and cut parallel to that. But kind of a more rounded nodule, which is nice. One thing that you guys probably don't notice that I do a lot on these, especially on these little vices, is I'm rocking the agate back and forth against the backboard to see if it will sit nicely, and then I start clamping it down. And I don't do a lot with the UV stuff, mostly because the UV light makes me very nauseous. Like even just a minute of looking at something with the UV light makes me want to puke, which actually makes me sad because I think the UV minerals are really cool, but I really struggle with them because it makes me so nauseous to look at stuff under the UV light. So I'm not a great person to ask about value on the UV minerals, but there are rocks that all of their value come from being UV reactive. So it definitely can add value. Oh my gosh. This is a crazy one. All right, so this is that one where we were talking about how it had the water lines, and if you cut too close to this face here, you would only get just a flat plane of color with a little bit of banding around it. I think we cut this one just right. That is my new
Oh,
favorite Mozambique agate.
Brian, it's yours soon.
That I that is freaking fantastic. I don't see any fractures in it. It's very clean, beautiful agate. Oh my gosh, the colors are amazing. So an agate like this half is thinner and it's not got near the weight to it. So I would put 600 on this half, and I'd probably put 700, maybe 750 on that one.
How much on that one, Zeke? Oh, sorry, you just said it. Nope, never mind. Disregard.
Oh, oh my gosh, I feel like you.
Hilarious. I'm just so used to you not listening to me that I figured I'd ask the question.
That one's good enough that I'm going to send a picture of that one to John later.
Oh, fancy.
Very few agates I cut. I actually were like, John, you need to see this one.
Dude,
Here's another,
yeah.
right? Here's another one. We got a little window on the end here. You can see some of that green and yellow. I don't like these lines right here, so we'll cut right down the middle, right there. You got a fracture over here. You could also slab this one up till you got to a good specimen,
Hmm.
but we'll leave it thick and let somebody else cut it further if they so desire. I thought we still had some of the bigger things to grit.
Not of those kinds. Of the 220, we have the 55 pounds.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew you would know.
Like 60/90, we have like none.
Yeah, that one we have a lot of orders for still.
I know, I need pretty much a whole container of 60/90 grit.
Man, I am so pumped for that Mozambique we just cut. That was a phenomenal agate. Oh my goodness. Another just killer. This is another agate worthy of sending John a picture. All those tubes going
Wow.
around that beautiful fortification. Yeah, that's a pretty special little agate. This one I'd probably put 350 a half on. This one I'd do a little bit more. I'd probably do 400 on this half and 350 on this one. I just realized that this eye right here is very chatoyant, which I've not seen that before.
Chatoyant.
Chatoyant. That's a pretty that's a pretty freaking great agate.
Who would
Oh
have
my
thought we were
goodness.
gonna hear chatoyant on an agate night?
Yeah, right? Now this one, I like these little eyes poking out of it. So I think we should cut through some of those to see. Thinking cutting right through that row right there, what kind of effect that's going to have on the face of the agate. I know you don't see a lot of agates with anything chatoyant in them. Is this helpful for you guys? Hopefully you learned something about the agates, or at least just having fun watching them. I am convinced that we could do a live feed of cutting agates 24/7 and there'd always be someone on watching because it is so much fun to see the agates. Oh my goodness. Well, coming off the high of those last two, this one is quite the disappointment. This is definitely one for the tumbler. I mean, you could make cabs out of it, and it'd be decent cabs with those layers of the dots in there. But my goodness, after cutting those last two, it's like, why bother? I wouldn't price that one. I would throw it in the tumbler and, well, I mean, you can sell it for a couple bucks as a tumbled stone, or do intarsia piece out of it, or make cabs with it. But I wouldn't sell it as a specimen. I wouldn't even offer it as a specimen. This one, I'm thinking, might clamp right there and cut right down there. Looks like might get a little fracture right there. You
Would you
could,
try?
Gary.
Oop, sorry, Zeke.
No, you're good. You could cut another layer off, but I don't think it's good enough to do that. I mean, it may get a lot better, so who knows? But for me, it's not like I wouldn't even bother. I'd just throw it in the tumbler.
I'm getting to your guys' questions. Let me see. Um, Zeke, you don't have any values on stick agate, do you? Found some killer stick, multicolor. Know it's high end. Not sure the best way to cut other than perpendicular to the seam.
It really depends. I'd have to say it really depends on the stick agate. I do love stick agates. Oh, maybe we should cut a piece of stick the Turkish stuff tonight. Oh, all right. We're back in business on the nice agates. I can be happy about this one.
Well, we can fix that, Gary.
That's a pretty agate. Look at all those eyes around the edge. This one's nowhere near the value of those other ones, but still a very attractive agate. One like this one, polished, you'd probably be somewhere between 85 and $100 a half on this one. This is definitely the nicer of the two halves. So I'll do this one for a little bit more than I did that one. Um, but not a bad little agate. Looks like it's got some shadow in there too. I don't see any fractures in it. This one we'll cut right down through there. Nice symmetrical face on there. It's a little bit more solid on that line, which I like. I've seen Alamejos go for anywhere from they're only worth maybe 10 to $20, all the way up to the most expensive ones I've seen were in the $700 to $900 range. I'd say average though, a nice one, you're gonna get somewhere between 40 and $100 for a pretty decent little agate. I actually think someone would do really well starting a business with just Alamejo where they bought one of the Almejo deals, like a 55-pound deal. You got a wet belt sander, maybe one of the HT10 would be a really good one to start with a retrofit vise. Although I'd pick the Model 12, of course, if I was doing it. And just cutting and polishing Almejos and taking them to shows. Then you could expand into making cabs. For polishing, I would either get the wet belt sander or one of the cab machines and the expanding drum, and you could sit there and polish and sell them. Make cabs with some of them, tumble some of them, and I think you could start a whole rock business just off of Almejo. Let me grab a piece of Turkish stick agate while I'm over here. Oh, the bin moved on me.
It's over here, I think, Zeke. Like down here, I think, somewhere. I thought.
They quite literally got up and walked away.
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry, you're looking for the Turkish stick.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Almejo. Then I have
Well,
no
the
idea.
Gambari's right there.
Close. Oh, Turkish stick, try walking straight down on your left. It was near the island agates before. And I think the island agate mediums, I think they're on your left. That's right.
Girl, I know. I was just looking.
It should be somewhere
Oh,
over
it's
there.
right here. I found it. And we're getting real low on the stick agate. Oh, this is a killer piece right here.
Oh, that's where my mom works, Jeffrey. I think anything that's coming from out of the country is fumigated.
Yes. All right, let me come find you guys. And then we'll throw a piece of this Turkish stick in. And then you guys wouldn't want to do some tote out of agates tonight, would you?
Oh, well, I can just take it off and come with you, Jeffrey.
Here's a really nice piece of the marcasite and agate that I was cutting up. This is one of the last chunks that we have of this material, but it was a big piece that nobody grabbed, so I was like, oh, we'll just have to slice that up. Look at the tubes right there. That's crazy. That is a wicked cool piece. All right, and then this is the piece of the Turkish stick that I grabbed. Oh, now the question is, do we cut it for this face or that face? I'm thinking we cut it for this face. Let's see how this is gonna clamp in the vise nicely. It would be good to take an end off. Oh, let me raise it up a little, just a tad bit.
Thanks, Linda. What agates do we have to do tote out of, Zeke Ray?
1970s, which we haven't cut any yet. We have some Condor that just came in.
I like
Um,
that.
where's the mallet? We could always do Island agate, of course. We could do Mozambique. Um, we could do Timor, Moroccan, Royal Imperial.
Alrighty, y'all throw it in the chat what you want to see.
My personal vote is Condor
My
because
personal vote is Condor too.
that's the one I've been drooling over. I feel like we got to throw some Condors in next so people can see those.
There's 128 of you in the room, and maybe 10 of you voted. Let's see. Condor's starting to come away with it. What else do you guys want to see? We can do Mozambique. There's some Royal Imperials. Alrighty, we're gonna start. I'll set up to start at the Condor. Oh no, not the gavel.
You're never gonna get away from the gavel, you know.
Never, never, ever. It it was like ear piercing when you would do it when I first started.
Ear piercing, and the over dramatic award goes to, you know.
Well, of course it goes to me. Zeke, I'm gonna shut this TV down over here because I think you're done with it, and I need another account to go on the other TV.
Oh, well, I left the reason I had you do that TV is because we also just got a bunch of really killer Sumatra cut halves. That Jaden loaded up everything that came in. And so I was gonna ask if you guys want to look at those, we could also look at those tonight. There's some
Well,
pretty amazing agates in there. That wouldn't be tote, it would just be bins. But it's up to you guys.
so can we do that? Are you gonna do that after we do Tote Zeke? Is my question.
Well, that's why I'm asking right now because we can either do that next and then do Condor, or we can turn the TV back on later if people want to do that.
Okay,
But there is some,
Condor first or table first? Tote first or table first? Put in the chat. So put tote if you want to do tote, or put table if you want to do table.
or you can do Condor in the versus Sumatra. But there is some really killer Sumatran halves in there. There's also some
Okay.
really killer Condors, so I'm like, oh, I'd be torn too.
All right, let's start with the table. That's the vote.
Let's see. Let me wash my hands. This will actually be perfect because let's throw in some Condors in the saw. And then when we're finished with the Sumatra, we can look at the Condors while we're setting up to do tote out of the Condor. That sounds like a good plan. I'm going to pretend like that was intentional. I feel like Jordan said something sassy based on the look she's giving me, but I don't think she's unmuted.
No, I was just
Oh.
looking at you. I can't just
Oh, okay.
smile.
I can't just smile. We're laughing because that's what I say to Jordan all the time when she's like, what do you want?
I have no I cannot confirm nor deny.
Jordan would never.
Never.
All right, let me grab the phone and let's do some plot up some condors. Or plot up. Cut up. Good grief.
Team, you wanna do that for Susan, please?
I can't even remember what we put in the saw. Oh, we put the Team Wars in. I was like, what were we cutting?
Are they polished Sumatras that we're looking at or rough?
They're cut halves.
Oh, just the cut halves. Okay.
These are like premium. John got them already cut pieces. Very little of the Sumatra that I've seen you can cut really nice specimens out of. And so when you see ones like this, like John was bouncing with joy about this batch. There's some really good agates in there. All right, here's the first Timor, and I think we did pretty good. Oh, that's pretty good, Gary. I like these always remind me of Kentucky's. I like that yellow and green in there. But that was fun with the double floater in there. Yeah, this is a pretty fun agate. One like this, I'd probably put like $75 a half on, which is pretty good considering that's about a pound, which would make that around $15 for that agate. All right, I grabbed a huge condor. We'll see if we can squeeze this one into the saw here. This is about as big as I'd want to squeeze into this. I know it doesn't look very big in comparison to the blade and that angle on the camera. Let's see. I give it a little extra chain. Yeah, it's going to be right up there for the top of the blade. It might not clear. All right, here's the second one. This is okay. This one I would slab up for cabs. I don't like the fracture running through the center there. I like this half better. Definitely not as nice as that last one, but it's got some nice pattern and color in it, so it could be some decent cabbing or tumbling material, but I wouldn't polish it for a specimen. This one I wanted to cut because you can see some nice pattern in there, but you can see it's going to be a very pain in the butt one to clamp doing that really steep angle. I thought of Jordan as soon as I saw this agate. Yep, that's a condor. Oh, actually wasn't too bad to clamp. But very steep cut on that one. All right, let's see how we did. Well, definitely another one for cabbing. I love these green eyes in it, but not one I would polish as a specimen. This is definitely one I would cut up for cabs because that'd make a really cool cab with the green eyes in it. But as a specimen, it's not that exciting. If I had more of the green eyes in there, that'd be really cool as a specimen. It does give a little bit of ocean jasper vibe on some of those areas, but definitely not a specimen. All right, here's a pretty whole nodule. Let's see, this one is really thick right here, and I think we'll cut for a nice aesthetically pleasing window on that. Uh, oh yeah, that's good. Always better to check twice because you can only cut it once for the first time.
We have not cut
Yeah,
Laguna yet.
you get such a variety. Oh, you know what I just thought? For
What?
anybody that stays late tonight, past our normal time when we're ready to call it a night, I'll cut some of the ones I got stashed aside that I've been wanting to cut for a while with you guys. That's a pretty sweet little agate. That's another Timor. Do we have a deal on the Timors? That's a pretty cool agate. I love all those little tubes in there. Exactly, Daniel. There's some really cool stuff that I've been wanting to cut. All right, that one you can see nice yellow face on. This is one that I grabbed because it's like, oh, gotta cut right between that window. So it's going to be a tricky one to clamp. You want to get that lined up right. That could be quite the oopsie. This agate definitely doesn't give you much to bite onto. Oh, we should have shown the rock gripper tonight. Well, when we come back and cut agates later, um, I'll put I'll use the rock gripper on some of them. I have some Quaymitos that we'll cut later tonight. If you guys want to stay late and do some fun cutting. We'll come back over and I'll cut some of those agates that I got stashed aside. And I got some nice round Quaymitos that'd be good for the gripper. Oh, that's a cute little agate. This one I would really like if it didn't have that fracture going right down the middle. The way it sits, probably 15, $20 a half because of the fracture. This one would be way more valuable to cut up for cabs because you could cut the top of, just a cab out of this top half of that and get $25 for that cab. Easy. You probably get more like 45 for it. But this is definitely one that would be a lot more valuable as cabs.
How much would you put, like, if you like just made a cab out of one of them, Zeke?
Well, I'm thinking like if I made a cab out of that area that I was kind of circling with my finger, probably I could probably get $45 for a cab like that, pretty easy. Now we got some nice color poking out of that window. This one, I like the thick end on this side. So we're gonna clamp it on this thin side and cut through the thick side of this one. The last one that was cut, yeah, was a Timor.
I put your Timor deal in the chat, Zeke.
Oh,
Oh, there you
sweet.
go.
I'll blend back over, and we were correct on this is not going to cut all the way through. I put it in there a little too high. Although it turned out pretty good. That's a pretty big agate too. Very few fractures for something so big. Yep, this is Condor. That's pretty cool. All the ones in the saws right now are Condor. I don't know what the cost on that one was. I did not weigh these beforehand. Oh, this one is going to be so cool.
What about, I think he was talking about per pound secret for the condors.
Oh, I think that one came out of the 85 a pound.
Is that what you meant, Gregory?
That's a really good agate. Holy crap. That's a very unusual coloration in there,
So a
where you get that
condor.
kind of pattern. Yep, this is a condor. Oh my goodness. Getting better with every saw. All right, there I can talk. The phone died right as we just just popped open the best one so far. This one is ridiculously good. Dang. Like the camera is like flickering out. That's so bright, and all the different colors. That is an insane agate. Good grief! This camera cannot see this one. My goodness, this one I would put at least 700 a half on this agate. That is just about darn near perfect. It's got shadow. It's got pretty much all the colors. Got little dots in it. Oh, that's another one worthy of sending to John. I mean, this one's pretty good too, but it's going to be hard to compete with that one that we just looked at. Nice yellow in there. Let's see. This one, I don't think that has shadow, but it looks like it might. We'll have to wash that one and see. But that's pretty bright yellow in that piece.
Ariana, what are you doing here?
She's alive.
Or is she? Trying to get this sliver out of my finger.
Well, I'm gonna say that this is not a condor and something else slipped into the batch. It's a nice agate, but it's definitely not a condor.
No. That's pretty. That wouldn't be like a plume, like the Argentinian plume, would it?
No,
Laguna?
definitely a Laguna. I think we grabbed one out of the wrong bin. That looks kind of like a nice butterfly. This one I was just looking to see if it could break the matrix part off, but I think it's too continuous with the agate.
Probably this, well, obviously the fortification, like you most definitely would not see that kind of fortification in a condor. It'd be extremely rare, but the skin, kind of having that jelly area, the pinkish, and then a little hints of green always gives it away for me,
Yeah,
personally.
I mean, it did look a little odd, but definitely seeing it cut without a doubt, that is a Laguna. Yeah, that's a really good Laguna too. Oh, that's a pretty sweet agate for tonight. That's a nice little surprise. That was a really good round of agates. All right, let's go check on that stick agate. Oh, that's really nice. I love the stick agate. This is such a pretty material. Makes nice specimens, good for spheres. Makes nice cabs. You get big display pieces. I think Kristen's taking after Ed.
Oh my, I think Kristen's saying that to prevent herself from taking it home with her.
I do love this stuff. That's a pretty piece.
Well, it's just too much of the blank stuff.
But whoever did it just didn't tighten it.
Lot 4162 for Colleen Warden, 0.19 pounds.
Oh. Uh,
Lot 2610 for Gary Sollers, 2.73 pounds. Lot 3234 for Victor Gian, 3.64 pounds. Lot 2981 for Deb Houta, 0.67 pounds. Lot 1482 for Denise Johnston, 0.08 pounds. Lot 3881 for Brad Cornelius, 2.05 pounds. Lot 7455 for Jeff Porin, 1.13 pounds. Lot 8097 for Annie Rose Holtenberg, 0.21 pounds. Lot 4271 for Patrick Vendetti, 1.70 pounds. Lot 6515 for Matthew Larson, 0.73 pounds. And that was for the
these are all.
Condor.
Oh, we make sure they have the right rough rock number.
Yes, team. That one, that SKU is Rough Rock 0, so RR00104. And then team, let me know that you got that, please.
These are all condors out of like these are all ones that we just showed that nobody grabbed. That's why I was throwing them in the corner there because I was like, oh, I want to cut that. Hey, I'm just saying, everybody had a shot at them.
Thanks, Kath. Thanks, Kimmy. Appreciate it.
All right. That one we already know is gonna be nice with that purple in it. Now it's got some fun pattern in it. I like this jumbled mix of floaters right there. Little orbs in it. And this is gonna be something killer. But it's one of the Mexican agates that's been set aside for quite some time now. Finally ready to be cut.
There you go, Tim. They gotcha. We're gonna cut some more stuff tomorrow. Zeke and I have to be back here in 11 hours.
So soon.
So soon.
Oh, oh. Well, this one's got really nice banding in it. It just doesn't take up enough of the agate. And then here's another. This is a Moctezuma. This one has some really good potential to it because it's got some nice weight. Oh, yeah. That'll clamp on that little itty bit. Oh, I was excited about this one. Look at the pattern to line it up.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a really nice one with that purple in it.
How much did you price that one at, Zeke? This is
This
that a
is
condor?
yeah, this is a condor. This is one of the ones that we looked at earlier. I love the little orange in there. This one would probably, well, this side I'd probably put $250 on that one and 150 on that one. That's just got such good purple in it. All right, here's another Moctezuma that has really good potential, especially when you see that little window right there. Yeah, Moctezumas are extremely low yield, but I do love them. Moctezuma still are my number one favorite agate to cut. Oh man,
That's
this is
cool.
a river crossing. This was one of the ones that we looked at earlier. And then this is that island agate with all the shadow in it that nobody grabbed. But I wanted to cut it so you guys could see how good the shadow is in this. And we're just going to take that end off right there. This is not one I expect to be like crazy colors, but it's going to be one that has killer shadow in it. It'll probably be a little bit lighter of that caramel color with shadow that just dances.
Team, you want to put that down for Jackie, please? Zeke, is there any rocks you don't like? I'll let you
There's
answer that,
lots of
Zeke.
rocks. There is lots of rock I don't like. Very little of it is here, though. Oh, that's a pretty cute one.
It's a cool pair of wings.
John and I have very similar taste. So fortunately, a lot of the rock that John buys is stuff that I really like. This is that blue one that everybody passed on earlier on the Island Agates. What was Michael's question?
Is there even one rock that John buys that you don't like?
Um, there's a few that I'm not like big on. I can't think of any that John bought that I'm like I hate that. And then we talked about doing the grip earlier, so I grabbed another uh Moctezuma. And there's even a lot of the rock I also try not to the stuff that I don't like, I try not to diss on it too much because I know there is people that do like it. That's one thing that John's always telling me is to talk about the stuff that you don't like more. Um, so that, people aren't like, oh, you just like every piece. But I have a hard time with that because I'm a very positive person. And so I really don't like dissing rock too much. Like if it's real bad, I'm like, oh gosh, nobody should cut that. I'll like throw it in the trash. But a lot of stuff, even if I don't personally like it, I can appreciate it and understand why other people do. And I'm big on not dissing on somebody else's, uh, something else that somebody would love. Like, a lot of people get really upset about dyed things or treated things, especially. And like, some people love that stuff. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but as long as it's disclosed, there's nothing wrong with it. I've also seen some people's rock that they'll send me pictures of, and they'll go, "Oh my goodness, this is my favorite piece," and I'm like, I would have stepped right over that if I was out collecting. Well, I wouldn't
Are you
tell them
think
that.
are you thinking like a gripper, Glenn? We have those. Like we have a 3-jaw rock gripper that holds like those awkward ones that won't clamp. What about what is like your least favorite rock, not dislike, just bottom of the list?
Oh, it's so hard because there's so much stuff out there that's just not that exciting.
Yeah, you're thinking about the rock gripper, Glenn. No, the slab grippers have not come in yet.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that would be like bottom of the list of like stuff I'm like, ugh. I'm not a
Snowflake.
big fan of Thunder eggs. Um, well, even basalt I would take because it can use for Intarsha. Slate is not very exciting. I like pyrite. I love
I love
metallics.
pyrite. I do too.
You know what's funny? You guys don't get to see it, but like when we're going through a collection and we're looking at pieces, we'll have a whole bin filled of stuff of rock that we just throw away because we're like they're just so unattractive and so ugh, that we'll fill a dumpster with stuff that's like get it out of here. Yeah, I don't know. There's some thunder eggs that are exciting. Like I like the Baker thunder eggs where you get the nice shadow banding in them. And then the colorful ones. The Cold Mountain Thunder eggs are okay, which is not something that I ever get like super excited about. Yeah, a lot of times, James. Um, almost any, and if we're gonna throw it in the trash, if there's any question of whether it's gonna be good or not, we'll break a piece off. I remember the first time John was having me throw rock away. I was like, John, I can't bear it. I have to cut these pieces. It will kill me if you do not. And he's like, fine, cut them. And they were all duds. John was like, I told you. And I was like, well, I wouldn't have been able to sleep if you didn't let me do that. So John's pretty good about that. Yeah, a lot of people are really anti that. I actually have dyed stuff in my collection because I think it's fun. That sounds like a good idea, Ed. You could also, if you had like a 25-pound tumbler, load it up with no grit in there and let it run for an hour, and that would probably get them pretty clean too. Throw a little soap in there. What's the ivory soap that's non-sudsing? Don't want to build up too much pressure and pop the lid off. Although it would take some serious pressure to pop the lid off that 25-pound tumbler. That thing is beefy.
Yeah, it is. The
I did
75
see.
pound one, insane.
Um, what was I saying? Oh, there was one Thunder Egg that I saw that I was like, okay, I would buy that. Have you seen Lori Coleman stuff? She does a bunch of that, of the digging of that in New Mexico. And she had one that she called the eyelashes. It was a big, got big sprays in it. I thought that was pretty cool. But I don't know. I can't think of anything that like nothing really comes to mind of something I'm like, oh, never make me cut another one. I don't know if you guys ever walk around with a rock show with me. I mean, Jordan can attest to this. I can be like, ugh, 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 would never cut that, but I don't know. I enjoy a lot of the rock. Ew, this is a funky agate. I'm still not even totally sure which one this is. It's one of those ones that came in a collection that have been sitting out in the field forever. But that is funky. I wouldn't even know what to price that one. I'd have to ask John because I'm not even sure what kind of agate that is.
That's really
But look at
cool.
those layers of orbs in there. Yeah, it is pretty cute. Man, that's a pretty fun little nodule. All right, let's see. There's another one here that's done. Oh, here's our first really exciting Moctezuma. You guys can see what I mean by just how amazing some of these can be.
Zachary.
I wouldn't even dome that. I would throw it right in the trash. Oh, all right. We see this is that one that had that little dot in there that I was like, yeah, this one has really good potential.
It'll probably
Yeah, let's see.
ship next week, Becky.
That little dot right there. It's probably too it feels too calcified, Kevin. So I wouldn't even want to risk blowing a tumbler lid off. That's a pretty good Moctezuma.
Oh my Lanta. Yeah, that's pretty. How much would you price that one at?
Look at the little plumes in there. Let's see. I'd probably put 200 a half on this one. That's a really good little Moctezuma. I'm pretty impressed that we hit that one that decent. Just cutting a handful of them. That one's almost done. And oh, this one's done down here. And that one's almost done too. Oh, just finished. All right, we'll go to the other end and check on those island agates. I think that last Moctezuma is going to be a dud anyway. Yes. Ooh, knocking the phone.
Ooh, that's sleek. Like a yin yang.
Yeah, I like that. I should have moved the cut over a little bit more. I didn't even look at it to see that it had quartz on the end there. But still pretty good little agate. I do love that blue in there. Nice shape. That's one of the things I was talking about, like having good symmetrical symmetrical shape. This one was also one of my favorite agates of the night. That was such a good condor.
Yeah.
All right, let's see the shadow on this one. Oh my gosh. You guys see that like
Holy mother.
that band moving through there?
Yeah.
That has got some crazy shadow. Ooh, almost fell out of the chair. Crazy shadow in it. And it goes all the way across the face. I'd probably put 150 on the half on this one. This one, the value really comes with how incredible the shadow is. Yeah, somebody should have grabbed that agate. That's a pretty sweet agate. I am really happy with that one. The light moving around in between the bands, it's called parallax, but it looks like little shadows dancing inside the agate. Oh, there you go. Just dropped. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Yeah, if you guys got to hold that agate, you'd be blown away with how good the shadow is. Well, better than I expected, but not as good as I hoped. This is definitely one for the tumbler. Oh, that was fun. Awesome. Well, thanks, y'all. That was a ton of fun to hang out with you guys. We cut some real fun agates tonight, and we're going to cut some more fun stuff tomorrow and offer a whole bunch more deals. So we'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.